Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Today, I wanted to talk about this subject of porn addiction again and how it's so disruptive and terrible for relationships. And I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and honestly, and I'm terrible for this. I really got to get better at this um, because I'm kind of like paraphrasing someone and I can't remember who said it, and that's terrible. Please bear with me. But she said something along the lines, and this was just an off the cuff comment. I don't know that I would put too much weight into it, but it was something like, I wouldn't date a man under 35. And when asked why, she's like, well, they're more likely to have a porn addiction. And, she goes on to explain, like, that generation just had such easy access at such a young age that it really created a lot of addiction in that demographic, right? So if you're thinking about like millennials and then of course younger, you're going to find that the likelihood, maybe statistically, they're more likely to have an addiction to porn because of the fact that they started so much younger. But I think it's important to recognize that relationships of all ages and demographics are being affected by this, right? So I'm in a perimenopause group, and one of the women, and I'm not going to read it all, but one of the women was saying, but he prefers women online to me. This seemed easier for me in my 20s to handle. 23 years of marriage that I've dealt with this. How do I manage the anxiety of Perry and the anxiety that I never know what my husband is sneaking around looking at? So here's the thing, like, this is going on in couples of all generations, and it's really just causing a huge disconnection between people. And, I know that there's so many things that get in the way of people being able to really connect with their own sensuality and sexuality. I know that there's a lot that's stopping people from knowing themselves and then, of course, knowing each other. But we need to understand that the porn itself is creating, it's disrupting neural pathways in our brain. It's creating a different flow of chemistries and hormones in our bodies that create that addiction, right? So, I talk about the fact that there are lots of things that you can have a healthy relationship with that are not necessarily good for us. And I know that lots of people can have this type of media in their life and it not, affect them negatively. But there seems to be a larger and growing percentage of people who can't. And so we need to find a way to address not just their addiction, because there are groups for addictions of all kinds, group meetings, there are meetings for people who have addictions to porn. There are resources out there. And yet I feel like the part that we're really not addressing is the women in relationships with these men who have porn addictions. So, because typically that's the dynamic, right? I'm talking from a hetero perspective here. So obviously it's affecting men of all different sexualities. So I'm sure there's lots of men in relationships with other men who are complaining about this too. It's just that my clients are largely female, and in heteronormative relationships. So and I'm talking from that demographic as well a lot of times. So, so from that perspective, there's a lot of women in relationships with men who are addicted to porn, and they feel unseen and unheard. And the overall message in society is that, first of all, women don't really have much of a need for sex or whatever, that we can just shut it on and off, and that even if we shut it off, it's no big deal because it wasn't really that important once we're done having babies, all that sort of BS that's out there, and that women have low libidos generally, and all of that nonsense. And it's like, well, no, in the right conditions, most women do have really healthy libidos and are interested in engaging in the erotic. So it's just, obviously what that looks like for every single person is different based on their physicality, based on their own needs and desires and fantasies and all of that stuff, right? So it's going to be different for every person. But generally speaking, if the needs for safety and attunement and all of that are met, they're likely to have a healthy libido. So when they're in a relationship with someone who has this porn addiction and their sex drive drops as a result, it's a result of the environment that they're in. Not because that would have happened naturally, because that's not the case for all women, especially, for all women in perimenopause. There are some whose libido completely bottoms out. And then there's others whose libido ramps up. And, it's going to be different, and everything in between, right? But we need to figure out how to support the women in those relationships so that they're not left feeling like there's something wrong with them, right? Because that's not the case. Because here's another woman who feels so unheard and unseen in her relationship that she actually was asking, or saying that she considers just getting dressed up and dolled up and going out and sitting in a bar just to see if she could, get some attention and admiration because she's feeling so unheard. And she says, I feel so unheard, unseen, and overlooked. I would never engage with another man, but the intention would be nice, right? So it's not just that they have this other way of meeting their sexual needs and therefore they're neglecting you. Chances are this pervades their relationship in other ways, because when you start having these conversations around unmet needs, often what comes up is a defensiveness and a distancing and a disconnection, a further disconnection. So it erodes all parts of the relationship. And it makes the person who is on the other side of that feel undesirable and unloved. And we need to talk about that. We need to address those feelings because it's unfair for them to carry that burden. Right? So it's unfair. The amount of women I see in person or, online, obviously, but as clients whose self-esteem is in the toilet. It is completely tanked. And their belief about themselves as being, sexually attractive or desirable is just rock bottom, because their partner led them to believe through their actions. And I'm not saying this is logical, right? But through their actions and behaviors around their addiction to porn, it led to their partner feeling all of those feelings. And logic doesn't play here, because I know that just my husband isn't addicted to porn. We have a healthy relationship with it, and it's not been an issue in our relationship, thankfully. But I know that there were times in my life when I actually believed that one of the reasons I didn't really like porn for many years was that my thought was, well, my partner's going to see these women whose chests are much bigger than mine, whose behinds are much smaller than mine, who are just shaped perfectly, and they're able to maybe do these things or move their bodies in ways that I can't, and they're going to, judge me because of that, or they're going to think less, or they're not going to be as attracted to me. I had this belief, right? And that was something that I had to work through. And we worked through it together through conversation. But like, that's not, like, I don't condone a lot of porn. There's some taboo porn for me. And I really think that if you are able to have a healthy relationship with it, that I really recommend that you seek out ethical porn, because not only can you feel okay about how it was produced and made, but you'll see real bodies in those kinds of productions, right? You'll see real women and real men's bodies, not these idealized or perfect, bodies that you would see in a lot of other types. So I think that if you like it and you can utilize it in a way that actually brings some of the erotic into your relationship and actually deepens your connection with your partner, then of course, right? Like, if you're a consensual adult and you have conversation around this and you both agree that this is the boundary, these are the lines, these are what we feel comfortable with, and in these set parameters we'll engage with porn, then that's fine. I think for each couple it's going to look different and you're going to have different conversations around it, but those conversations need to be had. But when it comes to the addiction relationship, sorry, I just feel like I have a hair. Yeah, got it. When it comes to the addiction and porn, the way that it makes the partner who's living with that addiction feel about themselves is not healthy, right? These are not a healthy dynamic. This is not a healthy relationship. And so we need to find ways to fix that. And so, and I've talked about this before in other videos, it's not your job to fix it. It's your job to support your partner if they're wanting to do the work to overcome their addiction. And you need to be supported to be able to do that. You need to feel that you have the resources to help you set boundaries and to help you feel supported through the process of supporting your partner. But you can't fix this. And it just makes me really sad when I see so many women who take that on as something that it's their fault, or that if they were more of this, or if they had less of that or more of this or whatever body parts, or if they were able to do this or do that. No, it's not that. It's not you. It's not you. Just like I would say it's not you if you're with a narcissistic partner and they're treating you horribly and you're in this toxic relationship. It's not you. It's not your fault, right? And you need support. So if you know someone who's going through this, or if you yourself are experiencing this, or you're wondering, you're not sure, and you don't know how to broach it with your partner, but you think that it's an issue, feel free to reach out. Let's have a chat. Let's see what supports we can get in place for you. And yeah, and if you're needing resources for your partner, I have a ton of colleagues that I can reach out to, and we can find someone that they can work with to help you both kind of figure this out and figure out a game plan to get well and healthy again as a couple. Or if you're not wanting to stay in that relationship and you're needing support to extricate yourself from that situation, and you're needing help to sort of heal those parts of yourself that have been left feeling like you weren't enough, please feel free to reach out. Thank you and have a great rest of your day. Namaste.